So I want you to imagine something. Have you ever been so completely paralyzed by the fear of making a mistake in a new language that you just froze, like totally froze up?
Oh yeah, that absolute deer in the headlights moment. It is terrifying.
Right. Your chest gets tight, panic sets in, and you just want the floor to open up and swallow you. But according to this really fascinating stack of sources we're looking at today, that exact humiliating moment, that's actually where fluency begins.
It sounds totally backwards, I know. But that sudden brain freeze is just such a universal human thing. You see it in language learners all the time, but really it happens to anyone stepping outside their comfort zone.
Yeah, your brain just hits a brick wall, and the words, they just refuse to come out.
Exactly. And what we are diving into today is essentially a masterclass in how to dismantle that exact panic.
So welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a very specific, highly detailed playbook. It's designed for teaching absolute beginner English. So we're talking A1 to A2 levels using these real-life, funny, simple stories.
But here's the secret. If you read between the lines, this material isn't just about vocabulary lists. Not at all.
No, not even close. It is this profoundly insightful look at human vulnerability. Like, it shows the hidden psychology of how people actually connect with each other.
Which is why the mission for our deep dive today is so interesting. We're exploring why abandoning that idea of textbook perfection is the fastest track to actually speaking naturally.
And embracing our most awkward, embarrassing mistakes along the way. Because, let's be honest, formal education conditions us to believe the textbook is, like, the ultimate reality.
Oh, completely. You're taught to memorize rules, run every thought through this strict mental grammar filter, and if you deviate from that, well, you failed.
Which just creates this paralyzing obsession with perfection. I mean, I was thinking about this, and it really reminds me of reading the instruction manual for a bicycle.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right, like natural speaking isn't standing there reciting the bicycle manual. It's actually getting on the bike, wobbling around, and, being totally okay with scraping your knee a few times.
Yes, because when you force a natural process through a rigid analytical filter, the whole system just crashes. It's like having the yips in sports.
Wait, the yips, like with professional golfers.
Exactly. A pitcher or a golfer who has done a motion 10,000 times suddenly forgets how to do it. Why? Because they start overthinking the tiny little micromechanics of their swing.
They move it out of that fluid, natural part of the brain and force back into the clunky, over-analytical part.
Right. And in communication, when someone is obsessed with textbook accuracy, they're basically trying to act like a walking real-time dictionary.
Which sounds exhausting.
It is. The mental processing power you need to check every verb, every tense, every single word before you even open your mouth.
Yeah.
It's just too much. Your cognitive load completely maxes out.
And when all your brain power is tied up in being a perfect dictionary, you have zero energy left to actually listen to the person standing right in front of you.
You miss everything. You can't read their face, you miss social cues, and you definitely lose the natural rhythm of the conversation.
I mean, we see this in our native language all the time, too. Think about staring at a blank email to a new boss.
Oh, rewriting the same sentence 5 times.
Yes. Rewriting it over and over to sound perfectly professional. The anxiety just completely ruins the actual message.
Because real communication is messy. It just is. The goal is never sterile perfection. The goal is connection. And this playbook we're looking at actively redefines what natural speaking even means.
It explicitly says that natural speaking does not mean sounding like a textbook.
Not at all. It means using easy words, reacting normally to things, asking simple questions, and, most importantly, continuing to speak even after you make a really obvious mistake.
Continuing after the mistake, I feel like that just completely changes the stakes of a conversation.
It does. The mistake isn't a wall that stops everything. It's just, a clumsy little stepping stone you trip over while walking down the path.
But getting someone to actually accept that in the moment is so hard. Fear of social failure is just deeply hardwired into our biology.
Which brings up the big question, right? If perfectionism is what causes us to freeze, how do we break it?
Yeah, because you can't just tell someone, hey, don't be nervous.
Right, that has literally never worked in the history of human emotion.
Telling someone to relax usually just makes them panic even more.
Exactly. You have to actively build an environment where that fear just can't survive.
Yeah.
You have to bypass the analytical brain and go straight for the nervous system.
And the way this guide does that is so counterintuitive. It basically says lean into the awkward mistake. Just pull it out into the open using shared humor.
Which leads us to that amazing story in the sources. the tree instead of tea scenario.
Oh my gosh, yes. This is a real-life example from the playbook. So picture this. A nervous learner is standing at a cafe counter. Their brain just totally misfires, and they confidently tell the worker, "I would like some tree."
Instead of tea?
Yes, instead of tea. And then the barista looks at them. They look at the barista, and they just stand there in this agonizing, totally silent stare down for 2 full seconds.
And 2 seconds doesn't sound like much, but
In a social interaction, it feels like a literal eternity.
it really does. Because biologically, what's happening in that silence is a mini fight-or-flight response. Your amygdala, the threat detection part of the brain, spots a social mistake.
And historically, looking foolish in front of the tribe was a bad idea.
A very bad idea. It meant potential exile, which meant you wouldn't survive. So your body just floods with cortisol. The learner is feeling genuine physical stress in that cafe.
But then the playbook shows what happens next. The learner just smiles and says, "Sorry, tea, not tree." And they both laugh.
And the tension just breaks instantly.
Right. But I do have to push back on this a little bit, because to me, humor feels incredibly risky here.
How so?
Well, if I'm already terrified of speaking and I say tree and the person across the counter starts laughing, I'm going to feel completely humiliated.
Sure, absolutely.
Doesn't laughing at a mistake risk traumatizing the learner? Like, they might never order a drink in public ever again.
Well, that is exactly the danger of unstructured humor. And it brings up a really crucial point about psychological safety. The creators of this guide anticipated that exact problem.
So they put guardrails on it.
Very strict guardrails. They outline these rigid emotional safety rules that have to govern these moments.
Okay, so what are the boundaries for the humor then?
The primary unbreakable rule is that you never ever shame the mistake. And you never laugh at the person.
Ah, okay. You laugh at the situation, like you and the learner are on the same side, looking at this ridiculous funny thing that just happened between you.
Exactly. The difference between laughing at someone and laughing with them over a shared awkward moment is just, it's the whole foundation of empathy.
That makes a lot of sense.
The guide actually strictly forbids dark humor, sarcastic jokes, or complex wordplay. Sarcasm is basically exclusionary by nature. If you don't catch the tone, it just feels like a weapon.
Right. The humor has to stay super light, really kind, and totally obvious. And the guide also gives these specific active phrases to normalize the moment.
Yes, you don't just laugh and move on in silence.
You have to verbally confirm that they are safe. You say things like, "Oh, many people do that," or "little by little it gets better."
Hearing many people do that is so powerful. It instantly removes the isolation of the mistake.
It tells you, hey, you aren't broken. You're just participating in this messy human experience of messing up your words.
And by taking that absurd moment of ordering a tree, laughing at it kindly, and giving that warm reassurance, you completely transform a potential trauma.
It turns into a relaxing, funny memory instead.
Exactly. You are literally training the learner's nervous system to realize that making mistakes does not equal social ruin.
Okay, so we've used humor and empathy to build this really safe, warm little bubble. Cortisol is down, everyone is relaxed, but you still have to actually transmit information, right?
Right. Establishing safety is only half the battle here.
So how do you structure the actual words you're saying to guarantee the listener understands? Because the playbook gets very specific here.
This is where it shifts from emotional psychology into what is basically structural engineering. It requires a highly disciplined type of language design.
The pronunciation optimization rules? I was reading this section, and the rules are surprisingly strict.
They really are. What stood out to you?
Well, you must use short sentences. You are only allowed one single idea per sentence, and you have to completely abandon complex grammar and the passive voice.
Just sticking entirely to simple present, simple past, and basic future tense.
Yeah. It feels like extreme linguistic reduction.
And it brings us back to that bandwidth issue we talked about earlier.
Are we basically stripping out the hard grammar just so the listener's brain has enough processing power left to catch the actual meaning?
That is the exact mechanical purpose. Think about the physical act of listening to a new language. When you use a really long, complex word, you are forcing their brain to decode the prefix, the root word, the suffix.
All while they're desperately trying to remember what the beginning of the sentence was about.
Exactly. Their cognitive load hits the absolute maximum, they drop the thread, and the whole communication bridge collapses.
The examples in the guide for this are fascinating. It outright bans abstract ideas and academic words. It even bans words with difficult consonant clusters.
They mandate very specific replacements.
Yeah, like you cannot use the word embarrassed.
Mhm.
It just takes too much brain power to decode and say. So instead, you say a little shy or awkward.
Or you aren't allowed to say misunderstanding.
Right. You have to say did not understand. You don't communicate, you just talk.
Notice what they're doing there. Every complex abstract word gets replaced by a basic action-oriented concept.
Did not understand uses these super clear, easy to hear blocks of sound.
And the listener can hear those blocks, repeat them in their head, and actually copy that speaking style without getting mentally overloaded.
I see the utility of it. I really do. But I have to ask, forcing yourself to only use these fundamental words, big, small, happy, sad, wrong, right, doesn't it feel a bit like we're dumbing down the language?
That is such a common reflex, to see simplification as a loss of intelligence.
Because it sounds incredibly restrictive. If I can only use one idea per sentence, aren't we losing the richness of human expression?
We really need to look at what is actually happening here. This
Yeah.
playbook is not demanding that you dumb down your thoughts. Not at all.
Okay, how would you reframe it?
It is demanding highly disciplined, ruthlessly efficient communication. It actually takes immense skill to strip away all the decoration and just deliver a pure idea.
It forces you to drop your linguistic vanity.
Oh, that is the perfect term for it. Linguistic vanity.
Right, because we use big words constantly, but not to make things clearer. We use them to prove how smart we are. It's like tribal signaling.
Absolutely. In a lot of professional environments, people hide behind jargon on purpose. They want to avoid being understood too clearly, because clarity means you actually have to take a definitive stance.
Oh, corporate speak is the worst for this. Like someone in a meeting will say, we need a synergistic paradigm shift to optimize cross-functional deliverables.
Which takes massive brain power to decode and usually means absolutely nothing.
Exactly. If they had just said, we need to work together better, everyone would get it instantly. But working together better doesn't sound expensive or impressive.
Because jargon prioritizes the speaker's ego over the listener's understanding. What this A1, A2 playbook does is completely invert that power dynamic.
It forces you to put the listener first.
Always. When you are limited to one idea per sentence, you can't hide behind fluff. You have to know exactly what your point is, and you have to deliver it cleanly.
It's basically an act of deep empathy, just wrapped up in structural discipline. You are intentionally building a bridge that is easy for the other person to walk across.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Well, let's pull all these threads together because this journey has been incredibly revealing. We started by looking at the traditional textbook way of learning.
And we realized that demanding perfection just creates a physiological freeze. It shuts down natural communication completely.
Right. It forces the brain to care more about analytical rules than actual human connection, which is exhausting and just fails in the real world.
So to shatter that freeze, we have to lean into the vulnerability of those awkward moments.
We use light, warm humor to laugh at the situation, never the person. And by normalizing those tree instead of tea moments, we prove to our nervous systems that mistakes are totally safe.
We lower the cortisol, neutralize the threat, and turn the fear of looking silly into a moment of shared psychological safety.
And then, once they feel safe, we apply this hidden architecture of simplicity. We ruthlessly simplify our vocabulary, cut out the jargon, and share one crystal clear idea at a time.
Which is a profound act of empathy that protects the listener's brain power.
Exactly. The lesson here is so clear. Whether you're teaching English, learning a language, or just trying to help a friend out, warm, friendly support is the engine of all progress.
You just have to accept that communication is never going to be perfectly sterile. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be.
Which brings me to a final thought I really want to leave you with today. We've spent this whole time looking at these rules through the lens of a beginner English playbook.
But think about your own daily life for a second.
Yeah, think about the miscommunications you have at work. Or those arguments with your partner that just spiral totally out of control.
Or the times you feel completely unheard by your own friends.
Those are the moments where our everyday bridges collapse under all this weight of assumptions and complex jargon.
So what if
What if the rules in this beginner's playbook, using short sentences, sharing one idea at a time, avoiding manipulative jargon, and giving people the grace to make a mistake without shaming them, what if those aren't just rules for A1 English learners?
It's a really profound way to apply the material.
What if applying this exact architecture of simplicity and emotional safety is the secret to being a way better, more connected communicator in your native language too?
Stripping away the linguistic vanity.
Exactly. Embracing the awkwardness so we stop freezing up and finally start actually understanding each other.
It's definitely something to think about.
Something to mull over the next time you open your mouth to speak. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.